In part one of our Stanley Kubrick and the moon landing episode, we talked about the results we found through our research and talking to various experts in this field about what really happened during the Apollo 11 mission.
In part two, we'll show our exclusive interviews with Ken Johnston, who was a NASA civilian astronaut from the Apollo moon program, a retired aerospace engineer, and a U.S. Marine, along with Bret, Sheppard, founder of LARS, of the Lunar Anomaly Research Society, which we filmed at Contact in the Desert in June.
In this episode, they'll share their own understandings of what they believe actually happened on July 20th, 1969.
But wait. Before we begin, make sure to click that subscribe button and bell so that you don't miss any of our awesome videos every week.
The Edge of Wonder.
Really curious about the Apollo mission with Buzz Aldrin. What we've heard is that it actually did happen, but they couldn't really record it because what was on video, there was things on the video that they couldn't show, so they recreated it. Is this true?
Now, the problem, you have to understand it. At that time, we were in the middle of the Cold War with Russia, right? And it was a race to get to the moon technology. All right, and who's the big movie guy that everybody...
So Stanley Kubrick is the one that everyone made this movie.
Yes. Now, Stanley and them did create a backup movie of the success of us landing on the moon and doing all of these fun things in the event that we failed. Okay, that we can prove we got there and did it. Now what happened is those fake movies, some people got a hold of that. Oh, you never went to the moon, you didn't. And my answer to that is, okay, now let me ask you a question. You know about the Hubble telescope? Okay, okay. And you know about satellites going around the moon, taking pictures and sending them back to Earth, right? Okay, and they photographed each one of the landing sites of Apollo, and there sits the lunar module descent stage still sitting on the moon, and the rover after Apollo 14 was still there that they rode on. Now, how in the hell did they get there if we didn't go to the moon? And you know that guy, I'll have to think about that. That's the point. Don't just listen to somebody else's crap.
Right.
Do your own research and know the truth.
Right.
So long as you stick with the truth, you have nothing to fear. Okay.
Yeah, and that's been the story that some people are saying. We did go there, but they saw aliens there or other beings on the moon. So then it was like, okay, we can't show this footage, so let's recreate it because we can't show the original footage.
Those films and things were withheld. Bret Sheppard can tell a lot more about how those records and the videos were hidden, so to speak, so that nobody could see them. Now, Buzz Aldrin, for instance, when he and Neil and Mike were in the Apollo 11 command module on the way to the moon, they were looking at this light that kept following them, coming closer and closer, but they've come. Buzz has talked about it before. He said they got to thinking about whether they could call mission control and say, you know, what is this thing that's following us out here? And nobody knew it. He said, so in reality, it was an unidentified flying object, right? He said, so they decided they would call mission control and ask for, what's the location of the S-4B, the big second stage of the rocket that got them going direct to the moon. And long pause at NASA, and they go, it's about, 20,000 miles at this angle from the command module. And okay, thank you, because that was their way of saying there was something there. And then he mentioned after that, it came close enough they could see that it was an actual vehicle of some sort. So it was an unidentified flying object.
Interesting.
Most of the astronauts have been unable to come forward or not. The problem you run into is after each mission, the astronauts had to go into quarantine at the Lunar Receiving Laboratory and undergo debriefing. Okay, and the woman psychologist that did the debriefing, and I've had information from sources that said that they put, and not only telling them that they couldn't come forward and everything else, kind of give them a mental block, such as through hypnosis. Now, Dr. Sasha Lesson, they decided it was time to get more information out of my brain, and I agreed, okay, we'll sit down and go through a hypnotic session of regression, and that's where my next book, which is already sold.
Oh, this one here? Is this?
Oh, there's one.
You have one
I saved
copy.
One. I only have, this is it. I got to save it until I get it. I was hypnotized, and I thought for about 15 minutes. 2.5 hours later, I came out of it, and we started discussing events and things that took place. And part of it was me, the metaphysical or the. Up until this point, everyone in America, Canada, and England and all have been programmed to laugh at anybody that says, well, I've seen ETs or seen this stuff like that. Other countries in South America and Europe and other places have come forward with their data and information. 90% of it has already been out to the public. Us Americans have been programmed and someone says, well, in reality, I was kidnapped, or I was this taken here with aliens, and everybody goes snicker, hee hee, ha ha, you're a wacko, right?
Yeah, it's very true.
Most people, that's what they get. And even here, when I start talking to people about things, and the new book, I have not come forward with any of the metaphysical stuff because of the credibility that was required of being a civilian astronaut, and information which is out in the first books. Or people would just, treat me like the rest of you. You're a wacko, you don't know crap, right? But now that they've got the evidence and the documents and the proof of what's going on, now they're going to do another hypnosis session and bring more data out. Cool. Ask the question, have I seen? If we go by what came out in the session, the answer is yes.
That's great.
Hard way to get a yes out of me, wasn't it?
Guys, I'm actually really excited. We're about to interview Bret from Contact in the Desert, Bret Sheppard. He's actually been involved in a lot of image work related to NASA. So he has actually a very interesting perspective on the moon that I want you guys to hear. So Bret Sheppard, can you tell us a little bit about what you've done?
Well, when I was 15 years old, Stanford Research Institute came to me in 1982 in an art class. I was very young, but I was a very good artist, and they knew I had a photographic memory. Her name was Zamina. I remember it because my art teacher used to make fun of her and call her Noxzema. But she came and she showed me lunar images and Mars images, but she said that they were extraterrestrial communication and that I should pay attention to this. And she proceeded to ask me what I thought about each and every image that she showed me. Some were very provocative and showed phalluses and all kinds of different things. Some were very cartoonish, some were like of gods and goddesses and stuff like that. Well, I didn't think much of it until 40 years later when I found them embedded in space images. So I found all of this artwork embedded in our space images in black and white. Yeah.
So where did you get these space images from? Where did you find them?
Well, I ran into a wall because I founded the Lunar Anomaly Research Society, and we researched the heck out of all these images. I've seen every single moon image there is. They all have the same trait. Something's missing from all of them. And it has to do with the digital process that they used. So we clarified that, that section of it. And the thing is, about the lunar images is why did they tamper with them to the point where it's propaganda for the public? And why did they tamper with the videos or whatever? And they simply don't want us to know what's in space and what's on the moon.
Okay, so let's talk about that for a minute. You having been someone involved in actually doctoring these images, what is on the moon?
Well, I wasn't involved in actually doctoring images, but I do know that process from Donna Hare and Ken Johnston. I believe their story because I see the evidence, literally. Donna said that they don't want us to know what's on the moon, so they doctored the images. They said that they used an old method that Chesley Bonestell invented for Disney. And they put acetate over the image, they doctor it up, do whatever they want to it, and refilm it. So it looks like an authentic original image. And that's what they do to debrief these images before they go out to the university or anywhere else.
So what is on the moon that no one's they don't want us to know?
Well, William Tompkins, who I very much respect, who's not with us anymore, told us exactly what's on the moon, and I believe every word he said because of the TRW thing and his explanation of the S-band antenna and how they got the separate signal back into that area where they were actually witnessing spacecraft following Apollo 11 and landing on the craters on the moon. So if someone wants to know how did they get through the Van Allen belt, probably secret technology or alien technology.
Okay, now, there has been a lot of discussion revolved around a Stanley Kubrick video that was made that apparently shows a fake moon landing, and there is a lot of arguments as to whether or not they landed on the moon.
Well,
what do you think?
This is exactly what I think. It's propaganda. They do not want you to know what is on the moon. So, of course, they're going to hide it. So a lot of our actual landing images were done in a studio. We do have a lot of fake images. The Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter uses complete CGI graphics to make their images at the university. They were contracted to do that.
But officially, we landed on the moon.
Officially, we not only landed on the moon, but we're still there.
Not only are we still there, but can you tell me from your perspective what happened when we landed on the moon?
When we landed on the moon, we met a bit of our intergalactic members. And when we met these people, they told us that we weren't ready, not that we could never come back.
Oh, really?
But that we were not ready.
Okay, and why weren't we ready?
Because we're still blowing the crap out of each other.
See, people, blowing stuff up never helps anything. Okay, that's great. So, how do you how can you verify this information for our audience? Tell me, why do you believe that this to be true? And I believe you, but I want to know, I want to verify this for them.
I'm very experiential. I listen to people. I look at all the facts, and I listen to any leads that I have. The one thing I want to say is there is no such thing as proof. I can set a brick in front of you and say that's the facts, but it doesn't tell the whole story of all the factory workers that made that brick and the factory that closed down and everything else. This is something you would have to experience. So along with this fact, there needs to be context. There needs to be some kind of experience that tells people, hey, this is valid and this is authentic and this needs to be listened to. There were 3 people that saw the Peacekeeper missile go up and watched the video of a UFO disabling the nuclear weapon.
I saw that. It was crazy.
Yeah, and there was Mr. Salas that, not Michael, but the other guy, that worked with the nuclear facilities and said that they came and landed by the silos and disabled all of the nuclear weapons. So if you want to know what's going on and who's malevolent or benevolent, I believe that we have been the malevolent race this whole time, and that's why we're not ready to go talk with our intergalactic community. And I think we will be someday.
Eventually, when we get over this whole let's kill one another thing.
Oh yes, absolutely.
All right. Is there now? You're an experienced guy. You've been looking at this stuff for a really long time. What do you want people to know more than anything?
What I want people to know more than anything is to use their own perception. It's very important. This experiment with SRI was not an accident. They came to see how someone that perceives everything would react when they saw these embedded images and lunar images and such. So they are very concerned about perception, and they want to know if you're buying the fake images or not.
So it's almost would you say it's like a social it's like a social experiment?
Yes, it's propaganda. It's they needed us to. They wanted people to know that we needed a bunch of fuel to go to the moon, so that they could sustain, their lie about fuel. While they had all the secret programs, they had neutral buoyancy already, and they had ways to get to space without using all of that fuel.
So propulsion wasn't the way that they got to the moon. It was a different type of technology.
It was both. They had to make it look real. So
I see. I got you.
So they used the secret stuff to get the tin cans to the moon and back.
I see.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So do you know what technology they're actually using, the other side of the technology?
Well, there are extraterrestrial galactic people out there, and they helped us get to the moon. They thought it was a good step for us to show people, hey, that we're to interest people in going to space and become part of the galactic community. So they assigned into, this was back in the Eisenhower days, they had already discussed this. Eisenhower was commissioned by Hoover to invade Area 51 at one time because these people were so powerful, they were above the government. And when Eisenhower went in there, they actually invited him in instead of having him take the army in there and causing a bunch of problems. So they invited him, just like Independence Day, they invited a president to go into the secret area and see the aliens and spacecraft and technology. So that's when Eisenhower came out with that speech warning us about the military-industrial complex.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
I gotcha. This is actually starting to all link in for me right now.
Oh, good.
This is awesome. Okay, is there anything else you want our audience to know?
I would just say hang in there. The truth is coming, and it has to do with your own experiences. Don't rely or listen to anybody else except for listen to their story and see where it leads and adapt it to your own experiences. That's what proof is. Proof is on the inside. I can know these things, but unless someone experiences or has context, it's very difficult to get that person to believe. And you should never believe anything, nothing.
Absolutely. These are very wise words from Bret right now. Bret, thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, you're welcome.
So guys, what did you think of this episode with Ken Johnston and Bret Sheppard?
Do you have any of your own theories on what happened? Let us know in the comments.
Also, make sure you hit like and subscribe for more videos on all sorts of interesting topics.
Until then, we'll see you out
On the edge.